Hey everybody, welcome to Paranormal Zone TV. I want to thank you all so much for being here tonight. It's been a while and it's so nice to see you all here. Thank you so much for joining me. For those who may be new to the show, if you would please subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And if you do watch my show and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. You'll get notified when we go live. Now tonight I'm really excited. I have Angela Thomas back again. She's one of my all-time favorite guests. She's extremely talented. Let me give you a little background on Angela. And also there's a bio underneath the video and her website, which I'm posting right now. It's www.psychic-angelathomas.com. So she's got a fabulous website. If you need her help, you can contact her through that website. And also our topic tonight is her latest book, This Psychic Life. So tonight she's going to be discussing some stories out of that book. But in 1 second, let me tell you a little bit about Angela. Angela is a professional psychic and a clairvoyant, noted over her 20 years of practice for her high accuracy and detail. She is a subject participant in an elite consciousness research study focusing on precognition and has gained an inviolable reputation for her psychic work in private sessions for individuals, business leaders, and celebrities. Her work has also included crime victim location and recovery. She is a vocal advocate for related causes. She is an evangelist for professionalism, standardization, integrity in the psychic services industry. So with that, let's bring Angela on. Hey Angela, welcome to the show.
Hi Norene. Hello everyone.
And so would you tell the viewers about your latest book that you've just published?
Yes, it's a little ebook, very easy to read. It's called This Psychic Life. It has 15 personal short stories in it. So the short stories are short, right? But it lets you know some of my own experiences that happened to me personally. So this does not include some of the things that's happened with my clients. That's another book. No, I can never write that book. But what has happened to me, and I've had a full range of experiences that, these are the stories that have stood out in my mind and come up repeatedly. In other words, I recall them quite frequently and still not trying to deal with it, but kind of reliving it. It's been something else.
Angela, I have one question before we start with your stories. You're going to present 3 stories to us tonight. And also we were talking before the show started, and what were you telling me? You had some experiences that you want to tell the viewers, which is, oh my God, it's crazy. So after she talks about these 3 stories, remind me, Angela, I want you to tell the viewers, okay? All right,
okay. So remember this, Norene.
Yeah.
If I tell you the stories, say knife in the air, and then I'll take it from there.
Oh, hell, you think I'm going to remember that? Come on. You got to remember. You have to remind me. Okay, listen, I have just one question for you. I have a ton of questions, but after the show and after you talk to the viewers about these experiences that you've had, if we have time, I really have some questions I want to ask you. But this one question that relates to your stories, I want to know, how did you come by these real-life psychic experiences? What method did you use? Did you use tarot cards, your remote viewing? Which of your gifts were used?
Okay. Well, I can say that only one tool for one of my stories, called The Devil in New Orleans, I use psychic tarot, tarot cards that people read. And really what happened, Norene, is I worked with a guy named Louis, and it was Louis's birthday. And I said, I'm going to give him a psychic tarot reading for his birthday. So he begins, I always ask, do you have any questions before I begin? So yes, he did. And his main concern was an investment property. So he and his wife were nearing retirement, and so they were looking at a secondary home that they could refurbish and rent out, and that would contribute to their retirement income. Okay, so he says, my wife and I found a house that we can repair, and it's back in my wife's old neighborhood. So the neighborhood she grew up in as, a child. So there were still, old neighbors still there and friends. So she was pretty excited about it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to look into it. Well, so I'm using tarot cards and my psychic abilities, and the first card I pulled was the Devil card. Now, for anybody that reads tarot, they pretty much know that Devil card means a zillion things, but when we talk about the Devil card as attached to a property, then we know, hey, either a criminal has been there, or there's been some felony there, or some really insane person there. But the residuals as a psychic, I thought, I just felt sick. And so I'm going through the reading, and I'm getting verification, like, no, this property is not for him. So I let him know, Louis, as much as I know that you love this property, especially your wife, I can say that the devil lives there. And I meant literally, because there was still like evil attached to the home. So anyway, fast forward, and several months later, I see Louis again, and now he's looking at the floor. He doesn't want to make eye contact with me. And I said, hey, what's going on? And he said, we went ahead and bought that house. And he said, I should have listened to you. So he's like very upset just thinking about it. So I very softly said, Louis, what happened there? And I'm taking it very slow so he will share the story. So he said, my wife and I decided that we're going to kind of, since we're going to work a lot of hours, we would just kind of bunk there at the house. He said, but on the property, besides the interior that needed a bit of repair, he said on the back end of the property was an old shed, and it was, coming apart. So it really needed to be taken down. So he said upon closer inspection, there was an old deep freezer. And that deep freezer had rust on it, and there was a chain and padlock on that deep freezer. So he thought, okay, before it gets too dark, I'm going to come back out here and see what's in that darn freezer, because I'm going to take the rest of the shed down. So, okay, he goes out there, and this time it's getting a little dark, and so he has a flashlight, and he's working that chain around the deep freezer. And he finally gets it open, and when he opens it, it is plastic bags, like garbage bags.
Yeah. So
he picks up the plastic bag, the first one, and he puts it on the ground, and he hears clink, clink, clink. So he's thinking, what's in that bag? So he decides he's going to open the bag, and in that bag was human skulls.
Oh my God.
And they all had holes in the skull that was the exact same place, as though these were perfect round holes in the exact same place in the skull. So it must have been done by a tool. So I said, oh my gosh. I said, did you call the police? He goes, hell no, I called my lawyer. And I said, what? Why did you call your lawyer? He said, because I am a black man, and I didn't know if the police officers would believe me if I said I just found these skulls. So then, he did eventually, he and his wife sold the property, as they should have.
Oh, they did sell it.
They ended up not living there because I told him, I said, evil lives there. So, when there are murders or anything that is terrible, whether it's torture or cruelty or deep depression or, whatever, that energy is stuck to the property.
Oh.
And it's very difficult. It's not just, hey, I'm going to ask a psychic to come in and do a spiritual cleansing on the home. I mean, it really takes a lot of work. But the actual property itself, because there had been so many multiple murders at that property, it was just, saturated in evil. And they would have never been able to get rid of that energy. But luckily they were able to sell it. So I don't know if they said, hey, heads up, this is the history of the property. And there are people that absolutely love to purchase properties like that, whether they decide, if they're a paranormal investigator or somebody just wants to do tours of a home, or they go, I don't care, I'm going to level the house and use the property. So anyway, that's the devil in New Orleans. And that story, of course, this is my short account of it, but that story is in the book, This Psychic Life, which is a Kindle book, by the way. So you can go to Amazon and purchase the Kindle.
All right, can I ask you a question? Did he ask you if you could clear the house of any negative energy? No, he didn't.
No, but I'll tell you, he was nearly in tears when he was telling me about the story, because it was, besides just the shock of that evil doing at that property, it was also, hey, we thought we found a second home.
Oh.
In fact, his wife said, you know what, maybe if we get this repaired, let's move out of the house we live in, move back into our old neighborhood, and rent out the house, the one that we normally have. So it was just very disappointing all the way around.
Did he do any research on the house to see who owned it or the past history on the property?
No,
really?
Because, a lot of the homes in New Orleans, especially when we're talking about old neighborhoods. Now, when I talk about old neighborhoods, I'm talking about generations of the same families living, and that's not unusual in New Orleans. A grandfather or a great-grandfather or grandmother, and the generations, that are after, the descendants, are moving into that property. So there's some neighborhoods in New Orleans that people just, they're very desirable, and if it wasn't passed down to the family members through wills, then it's not going to be affordable, right? It's not going to be an affordable place. So
the bones. Did he get advice of what to do with those bones? Should he have buried them, or?
No, he didn't handle that. Once the police arrived, after they questioned him, he and his wife went home, to the home they normally live in. And he said they never shared with him anything, the investigation part. So they would have taken the evidence, the plastic bags with skulls in them, the police would have taken that, and I'm assuming they dispose of that sort of thing. I mean, I don't know, but
so he wasn't he curious to who the previous owners, what the previous owners, if they knew about those bones? Did they have any problems in the house? I would have. Don't you think they would have searched that out?
No, not as upset as he was. I think that he, because I told him evil lives at this house, and I said I cannot tell you what to do, but I did tell him, if you decide to purchase this house, it's not going to go well for you.
Damn. Wow.
And that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
So, I mean, I as a psychic am not going to give my advice, because they can go to a friend or family member to get advice, or a professional, that has expertise in that area. I'm just the psychic giving the information. But no, I think it was so upsetting, and because he knew there was evil that lived on that property and in that house, the evil energy still stuck to the property, I don't feel like he wanted to know anymore.
Wow. So
you've heard that saying, less is more, or no news is good news, right? So it's kind of like that. He didn't want to know anymore.
So when you
to release himself from that property.
When you did the tarot card reading, okay, your card came up devil, but did it bring so it didn't give you any other indication about that house except that it was evil and that it was a devil?
Well, I did read it as, when you see the devil, and I'm talking about one of the zillions of meanings to that as a if you're a tarot reader. Like I do cold cases, and I track missing persons. So when I see the devil, if I ever use any tarot in doing like remote viewing and tracking, I know automatically that is a felon. So there's been a rape or a murder or something, rather sick, which I won't get into, but I know. So as soon as that devil card turned up, I thought, oh boy, this is evil that's occurred. So, and it was felony murders, plural, by an evil person that placed holes in people's heads.
Oh my God. Oh wow. Okay.
And here's the thing, there was no other body parts.
Damn, just the heads, the skulls.
No other body parts. So after he told me the story, I thought, okay, I didn't engage him in the conversation because I knew he was upset. But I thought, did the guy bury the bodies in the backyard? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because in New Orleans, there's no like traditional basements in New Orleans, so it's not like trapped in the basement or buried under the basement floor, simply because New Orleans is very close to sea level, or actually it's below sea level, and so you dig a few inches in the ground and water pops up. So, but yeah.
Oh my God. All right, what's your next story?
Well, let's get something to a little lighter. So this was years ago, and I have to say, typically psychics and clairvoyants, they don't typically see spirits. I mean, they do sometimes, but more they feel them or they hear them. But anyway, I was called by a family that I grew up with. A family I went to school with the children. So I knew the grandparents, and there was a step grandfather in the mix. And when he was living, when I would go visit he and his wife, he talked about cars. what are you driving, how much you paid for it, what kind of tires are on there, what kind of engine there. And, like number one, I'm not going to discuss how much I paid for anything. But secondly, I don't know what size engine it is, especially back in the day, right? I just knew put gas in the car. So he would go on and on about the schematics of that make and model. And, he really had a passion for it. Now, he was retired military, retired Air Force. In fact, there was the Keesler Air Force Base was where he retired from in Biloxi, Mississippi, and he lived in Biloxi after retirement. So fast forward, and I get a phone call from the family that he has passed.
Oh.
And, they were going to have, a little thing at the funeral home, an open casket. And then after that, then we all would go out to the cemetery. And so, okay. So I go in there with I'm putting my name in. I'm a visitor here. And I go in there and I pay my last respects. He's lying in the casket. So his stepdaughter, by the way, was originally from Panama. His wife was from Panama, the country of Panama. So his stepdaughter and I were friends, and her children and I went to school together. So her name was Dee, and Dee said, you know what? They've got a smoking room in the back. That's when you could smoke in buildings. They've got a smoking kind of, get you a cup of coffee or get a soda from a vending machine, and some tables and chairs. So, okay. She said, let's go back there. So, all right, we're back there. We're chit-chatting, and it's a beautiful sunny day. So I walk over to these very unusual, tall, narrow windows. The windows were more for decor versus, bringing in the light. But anyway, you could see the parking lot from where I was standing looking out of the windows. So here I am, I'm looking out and I'm admiring the day, and all of a sudden I see the deceased walking around the parking lot and checking out the cars. Checking, like walking over and looking at the tires and, walking around the car that he was admiring. And I said out loud, oh my God. Because that was the first time that I ever saw a spirit in human form. So it would be like if you were looking out and you saw a man, you would say, okay, that's a man walking in the parking lot. He was solid. He wasn't, no feet, all this. He was solid.
Right.
So I heard Dee behind me. I didn't turn around to look at her, but I heard her say, that's okay, Angie. That's his twin brother. Okay? So I felt relieved because just shortly before I saw him lying in the casket.
Wait a minute. Okay, so the guy had a twin brother. Okay.
Yes.
All right, so it wasn't the dead guy, it was the twin brother.
So I'm hearing Dee tell me. Now, Dee's got a Panamanian accent, and I grew up, hearing her voice, so I knew her voice. So she tells me, not to worry, Angie, it's his twin brother. He's got a twin brother. All right, so several years later, and Dee, by the way, lived in Arizona, in the Phoenix area. So I flew out there and to visit, and so she and I were on her patio, lovely, having coffee, and we're kind of catching up. And I said, wow, how was his twin brother doing? And she said, what are you talking about?
Oh my God.
I said, don't you remember? I'm standing there looking at him walking in the parking lot, and I said, oh my God. And you said, not to worry, Angie. I mean, she called me Angie, not Angela. So, don't worry, Angie. That's his twin brother. And she said he doesn't have a twin brother. He has a twin sister.
Oh my God.
But that's not what that voice said. So I discovered, and that was my first experience, that a spirit can adopt somebody's voice, right?
Yeah.
A spirit can mimic your voice. Now, I know your voice, and I'm sure your spouse knows your voice, but a spirit can literally mimic what you sound like. And that's what happened that day.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Was that the first time you had ever had experienced a voice like that?
Yes, the first time. And I'm a psychic-clairvoyant, so I'm highly clairaudient. But I mean, I heard it in my outer ear, right? It wasn't just an internal dialogue going on where I heard Dee say this, or the spirit rather. It was literally in my, like I'm hearing sound in a room, my external ear. So yes, that was the first time that occurred. And of course, throughout the years, I've heard external ear communications, that typically psychics receive, like an internal dialogue going on, but not in this case.
Oh, well, I've experienced that myself, yes. Oh, my God. Wow.
Yeah, so it was, I wasn't scared. I was just flabbergasted. There's an old word for you. I was flabbergasted to see him walking in the parking lot. And one of the things I kept on thinking was that, after she told me that, was his twin brother, but I kept on thinking it must run in the family, right? Like how he's checking out the cars. So in death, he's still checking out the cars.
Oh my God. Did you, wow, that's crazy. Okay, what's your next story? Oh, Haunted Highway.
The Haunted Highway. And I tell you what, I've never been so scared in my life. So at the time I lived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Biloxi, Mississippi, where my family resided at the time, was a 2.5-hour drive. But I was invited to go to Orange, Texas. Now, I don't remember what the, like how many miles it was from Baton Rouge to Orange, Texas, but it was a good, a good distance. So the odd thing is that on my way to Orange, Texas, my car was acting a little funny. And so I had been, I pulled over to one of those rest areas, and when I parked the car, I couldn't get it started anymore. So here I am, I'm stuck at this rest area, and a family comes along, and, a mother, father, and some, like young teenage kids, brother, sister. And so the husband said, "Ma'am, where are you going?" I said, "I'm on my way to Orange, Texas." He said, "We will give you a ride." And his wife said, "Just only bring what you can hold in your lap because our car is rather filled." So, okay. I get in the car and we start on the highway. No spirit activity. She turns to me and said, "Would you like to share Jesus with us?" Well, she pops in a cassette tape. Remember the old cassette tapes?
Yeah.
And it is like a like a quartet of men singing old Southern gospel music, which is not the way I like to hear any, I prefer regular, like old Amazing Grace and things like that. I don't like the quartet kind of music. So anyway, fast forward, I get to Orange, Texas, and while I'm in Orange, Texas, I get a phone call that this old beau of mine, and I was single, this old beau of mine was in Biloxi, Mississippi, and he was a boxer for the Navy. And he came home and he wanted to see me. So I said, okay, when I'm about to leave Orange, Texas, I get somebody to take me back to the rest area, and the car started right up. So it was already late in the afternoon. I had put things off until later on in the afternoon. And typically, when you're young, you don't think of all of the things that could occur in late evening and nighttime on an interstate. Because you're invincible, don't you know?
Yeah, really.
So, all right, I'm driving this car, and it is pitch black. Now, there are no street lights, like some of the interstates, there's going to be street lamps, and you'll see businesses or houses on the side. Well, I'm telling you what, there was nothing. There was no businesses, no lamps, no residents. And this particular part of the interstate had bridges that went over, water, and then you go down the road a little bit more and you cross over another bridge. And so I'm talking about deep in Louisiana. And all of a sudden, initially I thought, oh my gosh, that was a man and a woman and a little child that kind of darted out, like on the side of the road, where you would kind of pull over if you have an emergency. So I pulled over thinking, it's pitch dark, and here these people are, running out. It must be an emergency. Mm-hmm. So I pulled over and I got out of the car and I said, hello, can I help you? Right? Mm-hmm. And I was going to take them in the car and, drive them to wherever they needed to go. No response. I didn't see anybody. Didn't hear anybody. So I thought, okay, maybe I'm just tired. I get back in the vehicle, and Norene, it wasn't but a few minutes, and my accelerator to my car went all the way to the floorboard by itself.
Oh my God.
So my car, now there's barely any cars on the road, and at this particular time, thank the Lord that there was no traffic, like any traffic. So the accelerator hit the floorboard. I'm hitting the brake.
Oh.
It's not stopping. It's just going forward.
Oh my God.
And I'm like screaming. I'm scared, right? So all of a sudden, just like as it suddenly went to the floorboard, it went back to normal. But when I tried to press the accelerator to speed up a little bit, because it was bouncing from like 3 miles per hour to 5, 3 miles per hour to 5, right?
Yeah.
The accelerator would not work.
Wow.
And pick up the speed. All right, so I think I'm out of the dark, right? And I see the moonlight. I see the moonlight, kind of dancing on the water. So I knew that I was approaching another bridge. When the accelerator hit the floorboard again.
Oh my God.
And I mean, I'm feeling like I'm going to die. I'm going to die. It's going to go off the bridge, or, something's going to happen, and I didn't want to die that way.
Oh.
So this happened on and off for almost right outside of Baton Rouge. I was about 40 miles from Baton Rouge when my car, what I'm going to say, was released from the spirits. Now, in the interim, I would see occasionally, what I would call a spirit pop up in the highway. Right? Would pop up. But I thought, I am in an evil or highly active area in Louisiana. Now it was Interstate 10, and there are sections, or a section in I-10 that was known for people being killed. They were victims by satanic worshipers. In fact, Louisiana put a big documentary out about satanic worshipers. So I thought maybe I was in that area and these were the spirits that were lingering there. So I get to Baton Rouge and I am so shaken up, and I'm thinking, well, my old beau's sitting in Biloxi, so the next day I'll be able to see him if I can continue on. So I stopped at one of those all-night, convenience stores, and they had a little, like if you needed air, there was a guy, a little shop, like a little car shop, a Mr. Fix-It kind of situation. So I tell the guy, can you fix this problem? And I told him what was going on, and he goes, man, that just can't happen. That just cannot happen. And I thought, he thinks I'm crazy or making it up.
Yeah.
So you need to see somebody else. So I eventually did, I thought, okay, I'll talk to somebody else. And I did, and I went home, and I thought I'll just drive in the morning, but I talked to somebody else, and he goes, well, that part of the highway, they say, is haunted. But I don't believe in all of that stuff. And I said, well, I had a conversation, and I said, this is what happened. And he said the same thing the first guy said. Ma'am, very respectful, right? Ma'am, that just can't happen.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So that was and you know what? I never traveled that route again. I thought, no. In fact, I ended up moving to Dallas, Texas, and years later, and I took the long, like where you would have like two lane, highway through every little itsy bitsy town in Louisiana. I went through the long route because I thought I'm not going to go through that section anymore. Yeah.
So, hey, when you have experiences like that, do you ever think about pulling off to the side and communicating with any of the spirits?
Well, I don't normally typically do that, I mean, as far as that haunted highway story, I was thinking I was dealing with real life people when I got out of my car, but I would not at any time have said, oh, let me try to communicate with these spirits, because I knew what had me in that car, had control of my car.
That's right.
Was a very bad spirit.
Did you, when this was happening, did you say, hey, knock it off, leave my car alone?
It wouldn't have done any good, I'm telling you. This was, like I said, a very bad spirit. It wasn't like a prank. A spirit, might play a prank here and there. But no, this was intentional. And again, I saw other spirits on the highway as I'm speeding down the highway with the accelerator to the floor. So no, I was not about to try to communicate with something that was trying to harm me.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so when you come into such a negative spirit like that, even if you try to talk to them or communicate with them, what they're doing is wrong, to leave me alone, they wouldn't pay any attention to you then?
No.
Okay.
I mean, they're not, there are some people that believe, oh, you just tell the spirit, this is my house, or this is my car, leave me alone. Well, that spirit, it would be like, okay, a bad person, like a murderer that's in spirit now, a serial killer. Oh, leave me alone, serial killer, because I said so. They're not going to listen. Nor do you want to engage and communicate with those type of spirits. Not if you value your personal safety, because you don't know what their intentions are. So you don't want to make the situation worse by trying to communicate or reason with the spirit. There is no reasoning when a spirit is doing that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, so now let's talk. Why don't you talk to the viewers and tell them what you were telling me? And I told you, no, don't tell me now. Tell the viewers. Go ahead.
Well, this one's not about a spirit. This is about somebody that I felt was, well, first of all, let me just explain. I do not believe that all, and I know for sure, not all people that have been diagnosed with a mental illness are mentally ill. I feel like there's been a possession, or that they are oppressed by spirits, bad spirits. So with that being said, I get a call from a woman in the afternoon, and back in the day when I finally went public, I would meet somebody at a mutual public place, and psychically I'd kind of weigh them out, and then if they wanted me to read for them again, I would consider going into their office or into some people's homes, which I don't see anybody in person any longer. So I get a phone call from a young woman, and she said, I am staying at this hotel. She said, I am an Air Force Reserves, and so a bunch of us are staying at this hotel because there's no room on the base to, accommodate us. Will you come to the hotel? And I said, no. I said, I'll meet you at a mutual, place. And she said, well, I've got to go to Keesler Air Force Base. If you'll agree to read for me, I'll just get dressed because I've got to go there. We have a big meeting. Okay. So because of the time, I said, okay, the only public place close to you on your way is a library, and I happen to know they have a large conference room. So let's meet there. Okay. So I pull up in the parking lot, and as soon as my eyes hit her, I knew something was off, energetically, my body is reacting. So I thought, okay, it's just me, right? You're trying to explain, I was trying to explain everything away. And she had booked an hour with me. So I get into the conference room, Norene, and here we go with the whole devil card again. Oh. Now she said, I read a little bit of tarot. So as soon as I pulled the devil as the first card, which I was reading as her, this is my client, I'm reading the devil card as her. She goes, that's right. Now, I hadn't even started the reading, but she was like, yeah, that's right.
Really?
So she already knew how I was interpreting it. because of the first card and the position it was in and so on and so forth. So her whole hour, she just wanted to know about her love life, which is, is pretty typical for some people, love, health, and money, right? Mm-hmm. But she just wanted to on her love life. So I'm reading and I'm thinking, I'm just getting all of this psychic information that this person that she's interested in is by all means not interested in her. So I tell her, I said, you know what? I see that this particular man is a married man, and he is happily in love with his wife. And I see that they have a very young child, like a baby. And she came unglued. She was like, I won't use all the profanity that spilled from this woman's mouth, but she was hating on the wife. Like if she was just, if he just got rid of her and, he and I then could go forward. God. And I said, that's not going to happen. So I tried to offset the negative message to her, because it's taken negatively by her, and to present something positive. But I do see, somebody new stepping in your life. I don't care. So she is coming unglued.
Oh my God.
So I'm further into the reading, and I feel sick. I mean, I physically am feeling sick, and I'm looking at the clock. And some sexual things came up. Now, typically, I'm not going to read on somebody's private sexual life. That's none of my business, and I'm not going to delve into that. But I did get a little bit of insight as there was, what do they call it? Like, when they bind people up with ropes and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like, I guess, a S&M sort of situation.
Oh, okay.
And so I said, when it comes to your intimate life, I see that you venture outside of the box. And she proceeds to tell me how she was the victim of her stepfather, and that's what he did to her. And he tied her up and blah, 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 and I won't go into the awful, awful details. So I'm reading further. I'm like, okay, I've had enough of that. And I'm reading further, and I see that this woman has a child. And I see that has been repeated. What happened to her, now she was doing to the child, or did to the child.
No.
And she did bring up, well, what about my child? Am I ever going to get custody back for my son? And, I told her up front, I said, not between now and the next 18 months, I don't see you getting any custody of your son. So when the thing was finally over, and like I said, because I was feeling so sick from the energy and just the ick of the reading, I knew that there was an oppression, a demonic oppression of this woman. And so as I'm wrapping it up, she just says, I just want to hurt somebody. I just want to kill somebody. And she starts doing the motions of the knife in the air.
Oh, my
right?
God.
She is literally engaged in that sort of thing. And so I thought, thank the Lord that I did not make an exception and show up at her hotel room to do the reading.
Absolutely.
Because I really felt that she probably would have stabbed me.
Oh my God.
I felt like that was that kind of crazy. So, with her being in the Air Force Reserves, I know that she was not going to last too long in the reserves. She would have gotten a medical release, a mental release from the Air Force Reserves, because this woman was literally
loony bins. Oh my terrible. God, Angela. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
So one of the many reasons why I do not see people in person, I either will meet them on Zoom or Skype or by telephone. So,
I know we talked about you doing a show on this. Is it 2D? Is it 3D tarot cards?
Yes.
I've never heard of that before.
Well, that's because I created that.
Okay, so would that be a show in itself, like an hour-long show, or would it be something that we could talk about right now?
Well, we can talk a few minutes about it. I mean, I won't share any of the techniques simply because that book is not yet published.
Oh, okay.
But I can say that it is ideal for anybody that normally reads cards. Now, there's a huge difference, Norene, between a psychic tarotist and somebody that is a card reader that's just interpreting whatever meanings are, that they've memorized. Right?
Okay, didn't know that.
This card means you're going to meet a tall, dark stranger. This card means there's a message coming to you. Well, that doesn't tell anybody anything. But if somebody is using psychic tarot, they may be able to give details. So, but my system of three-dimensional tarot would, and you can't start with, no knowledge of tarot. You really have to be decently versed in tarot to even approach this method. But it does give details. So, sometimes if I'm doing a psychic reading, I may pull out cards. I'm not literally reading card for card. I'm looking for either a string of information, but because I'm so highly clairaudient, I like to use the example if I'm hearing just Washington and nothing else. I look to the tarot. Is that Washington State, Washington, D.C., a person with the last name Washington, Washington Avenue, you understand. So I'm able to gather the details from those cards. So it's a very highly effective method.
Wow. Hold on for a second. When you do these shows, I know you've been on shows and you've had radio shows, and I know you've been on, I think, video shows as well. And you've also been on Coast to Coast several times. When you do these shows, because you're one-on-one with these people and me, do you pick up anything psychic from these people? Do you get any energy from them? I do, but I'm not psychically focused in, because then that would I would have to shift further into the alpha state of consciousness. So right now we're in beta, and the next state of consciousness is alpha. So if I really wanted to pull more information, I would shift to alpha. But yes, I do get information from people that interview me, or people that, if there's more than one guest, I do get bits of information, but I don't focus on that, because it's not about me reading them. Mm-hmm. It's about, being interviewed. Was there ever a time that you had an interview that you said, oh gosh, I wish I had never done this, and felt like just quitting the show, but that you did continue on?
Well, I have been on some interviews, I have to say.
I hope it's not mine.
No, I have done some interviews that I won't even list. On my website, psychic-angela-thomas.com, I've got some of my media, and I put selected media. And there's a reason why some shows never make it up there. because I don't want to have to even think about it. It was that terrible.
Why was it terrible? Well, I mean, what happened?
The host or the hostess of the show was just, you know, they were not together. I'll just say that they weren't all together. You know, like I had one guy that my publicist had booked the show, and when I did the show, he had to have been drinking rather heavily. So throughout the entire show, I'm having to deal with, you know, his liquored up mind. So things like that, yes. But I have to tell you, I did have a show host. I did a show on Gaia, Beyond Belief with George Norene. And one show was about my three-dimensional tarot. So George asked, hey, will you do a reading for me? And so I did a quick reading for George. And so there was some information in there that I thought, oh, I should have never said that, you know, to George Norrie, especially in a public venue. But anyway.
And when you so most of your psychic readings are not done in person. Have you ever had someone that was that the vibes were so negative that when they appeared before you, and you didn't know until they appeared before you, that you would say, oh, I can't do this reading for you?
No, I mean, for most, you know, I would have to be very sick not to do the reading. Whatever the condition. Now, if it was somebody evil and things like that, or abusive, I'm not going to tolerate abuse for 1 second, ever. So it's like, okay, the reading is over. You know, we're not going there. But I did do a reading by telephone. And this was years ago, and the man said, you know, I want you to look into my marriage and see if my wife is cheating on me. I think she's cheating on me. Now, you know, that, you know, you're between a rock and a hard place, right? Yeah. So I did read, and I said, no, she's not cheating on you. Your wife goes to work, and your wife comes home. Your wife goes to work, and your wife comes home. And in the interim, she fixes you dinner. So, and loves you, right? So she's faithful. But I started picking up on, I was seeing Washington, D.C., and then I was seeing over the bridge, and now in my mind, I'm in Alexandria, Virginia. And I said, I see you in Alexandria, Virginia, right over the bridge from Washington, D.C. And he got kind of weird, right? And I said, there's something about a tower. Maybe it's a bell tower, but there's some sort of known tower. And I came across that he was a rapist. That's where his hunting grounds were.
Oh, my.
Was between a little area of Washington, D.C. and Alexandria, Virginia. But around that tower was where he would victimize these women.
Oh, my God. Did you confront him with that?
I said to him, I said, well, I know now why you're in Alexandria, Virginia. And I told him. And he was not a happy camper here. And he initially denied it. Right?
Oh, my
so I
God.
ended up, I ended up finishing up that, like, okay, we've come to the end of this reading. So what he really wanted to know was not, of course, people that cheat or people that commit crimes against women or vice versa, they're always going to suspect that their spouse is either cheating or maybe they know what I'm doing, right? And I just need a psychic to tell me if my wife knows what I'm doing. So,
God.
And I wanted to pick up the phone so bad and to the police there. But then I thought, no, they're gonna just think I'm some yo-yo.
Really?
Hey, listen, I know who one of your rapists is in your area.
Oh, really? You couldn't do you think he gave you his real name? Or does he give a name?
No, he gave me his real name because his info, I don't take any kind of credit cards, personally, because I don't have all that encrypted software. So I rely on like Stripe or PayPal, somebody that's, it's a bank online.
Uh-huh.
So, but it did come up, his name came up as the name that he gave me. So I knew I was speaking to the real person.
Oh, too bad. Do you think this day you wish you had called?
No, because, most police, or at least back in the day, they would have thought, here's another crazy person calling, right? Years ago, I used to represent a psychic, and I was her personal manager, and I was also her agent. And so I would rep her to television and radio. I won't give the name, but she was very talented at the time. And so she had gotten some insights on Michael Kennedy. The Kennedy family. And she said, "Oh, you've got to get in touch with Patrick Kennedy," which was a senator, and let him know that there is a life threat around Michael. Something's going to happen to Michael. Something's going to happen to Michael. And I said, I cannot just say, "Hey, Patrick, psychic so-and-so says that something's coming up with Michael." So she kind of worked on me, and I thought, okay, if I put it in a more professional way to deliver this, maybe, get a little bit more security around Michael or, whatever. So I sent the letter, and I get a phone call one evening. And this guy goes, "Angela Thomas?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Detective Zimmerman here." And I said, "Detective, I've been waiting on your call." So he was upset, not about what the contents of the message was, but rather that I did not go through protocol. And he said, you have to go through the Capitol State Police, and, before you can communicate with the senator. And I said, well, I was unaware of a protocol. So I did put him in touch with the actual psychic, who recorded on her side and he recorded on his side.
Did something happen?
By the way, no, you're recording me, and I just want to let you know I'm recording you too. And so she gave him the prediction about Michael. The more she got into it, the more details that came up. And it wasn't long after that Michael Kennedy died from a skiing accident. He hit a tree and died instantly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
But anyway, well, that's my stories. And like I said, there are 15 personal short stories in this psychic life. So it's, that kind of year. So if you want a little bit of, what really happens in a psychic's life, like mine, then check it out.
Oh my God, what a great show tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, and thanks so much for publishing that book.
You're welcome.
Yeah, now everybody, let's see.
It's getting so close to Halloween and that time of year, so it's ideal.
Oh yeah, and it can be purchased on Amazon Kindle. Don't forget, underneath this video, I have Angela's website as well. So you can contact her if you need her for anything. Contact her through that website. Angela, thank you so much again for another fabulous show.
I appreciate you being with me tonight and or allowing me to be with you. So have a great night, everyone.
Oh, thank you, Angela. Hope to see you soon. You'll
All right.
Thank you. Thanks so
Good night.
much. Good
Bye.
night. Good night. And this. Okay, hold on. Oh, gosh. I hope you enjoyed the show, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. So nice to be back. Dave Spinks is my next guest. He's going to be coming on the show. And we're going to be introducing another psychic. He's partnered up with, they do a business together. Her name is Jen, and she is absolutely, she works with the police department. She solves cases. Anyway, I'm going to introduce her. I'm going to bring Dave back on, and I think in about 2 weeks. And anyway, and Dave and Jen are going to tell us about some of the scary stories on what they've been doing in their investigations, and some of them are, oh my God, he's told me some of them. I can't believe it. I can't wait for you guys to hear the stories. So they're going to both join us in a couple of weeks. So thank you again so much for being here. I love you guys. I really appreciate it. Let me do some shout outs. Oh, another thing is, listen, YouTube is changing their policy. So I don't monetize my videos because the money goes to YouTube. Google gets the money. So don't give me any money. Stop giving me any money because YouTube. And then I got hit. I did a show like 8 years ago, and I did a show on Bigfoot. And in the introduction, see, in those days, you could take things off of YouTube and put them into your show. But what I did was it was a Bigfoot intro that A&E had done years ago, 8 years ago. And so I was able to, I don't know how I got it, but I was able to clip it out, and I did it it was just a little beginning intro for a Bigfoot show that I did. And A&E found it 2 weeks ago, and so I got hit with a copyright. So what happened is they didn't take the show down, which I'm going to just cut it out. So what they're doing is any money that I get automatically goes right to A&E. They're taking the money. So please don't give me any money. And I'm taking that off of there. So I wanted to tell you about, do an ad blocker, okay? Because I can't stop ads. We got notified that YouTube, even if we don't want the ads, YouTube is going to be putting ads on my videos. So do an ad. I have an ad blocker, but this ad blocker I'm using, unfortunately, doesn't. I'm going to have to get, I guess I'll have to pay for the upgrade because it doesn't really block all the ads, but just do a damn ad blocker so you don't have to watch those ads. And I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. We're all in the same boat. I don't want monetization. I don't want money from them, and they only take it anyway. And so that's the bottom line. No more monies, please. I don't want any more money because it's just. Oh, so what I wanted to say. So A&E, because they hit me with that copyright, but they didn't take my show down. Any money I make is going to A&E. I saw my little thing. I made like $10, and then there was a minus, and I went to A&E. So please, I don't want to give A&E. They don't need any more money. So and I'm going to get this. I'm going to ask Robert how I get this money thing off of my chat room. And I love you guys for all the times that you have given me money, but it only goes to YouTube. I don't get it. So anyway, so let's do some shout outs, and please get yourself an ad blocker so you don't have to watch those ads. Let me go up and thank you for my mods. Thank you so much, Chippa, Terry, and Renee, for being here. Thank you so much. You guys, you've been with me for so long, and you're always there. Thank you. I love you guys. So Renee and Chippa, Terry, my mods, thank you. I know Let me see who I can do shout outs. Jumpin' Jack Flash, Christopher. Oh, Christopher Chris. Hello. Let me see. Chippa Tall Cross, my buddy from Scotland. Tall Cross, what happened to Outlander? The final season has been split now. I saw a couple of episodes and now there aren't any more, so I understand it's being split. So I have to wait now till next year to see the rest of it. He's from Scotland. I love Scotland. Kit Stark. Let's see. Who else? Anybody else in here? I know there's people watching, but they're not all in the King of Hayuko Mundo. It's really hard to see. I don't know if there's anybody else. Let's see. Okay, Eudalia Queza. I'm Kitty's Corner. Kitty, your name is Norene too, I understand. And do you spell it the same way as me? That's awesome. Sarah Claire. Anybody else? Oh, okay. Oh, good. Yeah. Get your ad blockers on. Thayer. Oh, Thayer. Let's see. What else? Anybody else? I know there's people watching, but you're all not in Australia. Renee, aren't you from Australia? Yeah. Oh, New Zealand. Yeah. Though, thanks, Tall Cross. Everybody have a great weekend. Tracy Clark. So everybody, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I'll post. Don't forget, please subscribe to my channel. I'd appreciate it. And you should be getting, now, in front of on my main page, every time I put up a new, I create a new event, it'll have a little tab there. It says notify me. So you can hit on that so you get notified, okay? So, but if you'd subscribe, I'd really appreciate it too. And thank you so much for the likes. I love you guys. Have a great week. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I'll get together with Dave. Oh, hi, Sheila. I'll get together with Dave and we'll come up with a date for a show with him. He's been chomping at the bit to come back. And Angela, again, thank you so much. I love having Angela on. I just love her. She's a fabulous guest. Oh, yeah, I do love Halloween. I wish I could get some scary shows for October. I know that... one of my guests, he wrote a book. I've had him on the show many times, and he's an exorcist, and he wrote a book on some harrowing stories of exorcisms. Maybe I'll bring him in on October. I know Bill Bean wants to come back. Drew wants to come do with Mark Hewitt to do a show on the Zodiac. There's no information on the Zodiac. All right, so I'm going to go now. I love you guys. Have a great weekend. Be safe out there. And I'll set my shows up and watch out for them, okay? Love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Love you. Good night.